they were overwhelmingly elderly people, older people. Now, again, white boomers have the right to have a mass therapy session about the fact that Donald Trump won. But to call it a no kings protest, to act like he is a king is so utterly preposterous.
The No Kings rally has come and gone, and contrary to what many expected, it remained calm and orderly. It was simply a group of people using their First Amendment right to speak and protest. In the days before the event, countless pundits and even political figures like MAGA Mike Johnson claimed the rally was backed by Hamas and filled with communists, Antifa members, and anti-American radicals. None of those accusations turned out to be true. So now the question is, will those MAGA voices admit they got it wrong? On CNN, Sarah Seidner stepped in for Abby Phillip and hosted a panel discussion featuring MAGA commentators Pete Seat and Batya Ungar-Sargon. We're going to break down some clips from that conversation and share a few thoughts along the way. Let's jump right into it.
The Trump administration is dumping on Americans expressing their First Amendment rights, and an AI video he posted shows just how filthy Trump's willing to go against those who oppose him. A warning now, in case you haven't finished your dinner. Trump posted this AI video to social media featuring himself. You see him there wearing a crown, flying a fighter jet, and then you see that. It appears that he is dropping feces on protesters marching in the No Kings rallies over the weekend. An estimated 7 million people showed up to those rallies, and there were about 2,000 demonstrations held across the country. But it wasn't just the president doing the crap slinging. His vice president posting this fake video showing Democratic leaders bowing to Trump, who has a crown on, holding a sword there. The White House mocked Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer with this little video or pictures put out. So did the Transportation Department, by the way, putting this out. Trump's communication director took a jab at Kamala Harris's husband with this. And these are the people that Americans are paying to run the government, which, by the way, as you know, is still shut down. And when confronted with Trump's sewage bomb, here's how the Republican Speaker of the House tried to spin it.
The president uses social media to make a point. You can argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point.
All right, we've got our great panel here. Let's start with you, Pete Seat. You're so lucky you're in the hot seat. The president is supposed to be the president for all Americans. Why is this okay?
Well, they're calling it what it is, and that is a partisan charade. It is being completely overblown. Let me back up for a second. The very same people who mocked Donald Trump for his fixation on crowd sizes, saying it was indicative of absolutely nothing, want us to focus on the fact that 98% of Americans had nothing to do with these protests over the weekend. They want to overblow this and exaggerate it and make it sound like it is a massive wave against Donald Trump. What it is a Democrat Party stunt, one that was co-sponsored by the Communist Party of America. It is on the flyer, their logo. That should be disavowed. It should have never been allowed on the flyer to begin with. So the Speaker of the House, I don't agree with all of his language that he's using to describe this, but they're pointing out what it is, and that is just a bunch of partisan politics. If Joe Biden was president, these people wouldn't give a darn.
Do you think that if Joe Biden was president and he posted that video of Republicans who were out there expressing their rights with it dumping crap on
well, I don't like a lot of the social media that Donald Trump puts out there. He's trolling. You can agree or disagree with the trolling, but it is his style of communicating. He seems to enjoy it, and a lot of his supporters do. I don't.
What do you think about this, Keith? As you hear, the responses from Republicans have been like, oh, he's trolling. Oh, he's joking. Oh, this is not a serious protest, even though there were some 7 million people out there.
You know, where does it end? What are we doing here? I mean, I was at the protest on Saturday in New York City. It was entirely peaceful. There were 100,000 people or so who were there down 7th Avenue in Manhattan. And there were millions of people at other protests across the country. No, it wasn't the entire population, but even when Dr. King led his marches, there were only a small fragment of the black community who was there. But it was a representation of the power of the people standing up against their government. People have busy lives, and they took time out of their lives to do that. And then to have the President of the United States figuratively crap on them for expressing their right to free speech is an affront to democracy. It's not only juvenile and immature, it's a reflection of where we are as a country today. On top of all that, then you have Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and other people in the Republican Party saying this is okay because it's just Trump being Trump. Well, last week they were saying it was okay for 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds to make racist comments about Nazis and stuff like that. But now we have the President of the United States literally attacking a 23-year-old, Harry Sisson, dumping crap on him. And that's okay, because that's fair game. But when the Republicans are doing it and they're calling each other Nazis, they're just kids. This is just a reflection of the hypocrisy of the Republican Party.
Keith Boykin made some solid points, but the real issue here goes beyond that. I actually wish Scott Jennings had been part of this episode, because just last week on Abby Phillips' show, he was echoing everything MAGA Mike Johnson had been saying. And honestly, is there a bigger political weasel out there than Mike Johnson? Anyway, Johnson and his MAGA allies kept insisting that the rally was funded by Hamas, calling the protesters communists, terrorists, and violent Antifa radicals. Jennings even claimed that these people were known to be violent, saying he only hoped a few would stay peaceful. Now, suddenly, it's all treated like some kind of joke. Donald Trump posts an AI-generated video, and everyone just laughs it off. But think about it. If they truly believed these were dangerous, violent extremists, then how could it suddenly become a punchline? The truth is, MAGA supporters never admit when they're wrong. They always twist the narrative, spin it, and bend a logic to fit their version of events. Pete Seat tries to act like he's not part of that. But as Sarah Seidner pointed out, imagine if Joe Biden had done something similar, or if AI technology had existed during Obama's presidency. They're still bringing up Obama's "you didn't build that" quote, and Hillary Clinton's deplorables comment years later. So, can you imagine if there were an AI video of Barack Obama flying a fighter jet and dropping waste on people? The outrage would never end. They'd still be talking about it today.
All old enough to remember when Hillary Clinton used the deplorables comment, said that half of the people that support Donald Trump were part of this basket of deplorables, and Republicans went crazy, condemning her. To this day, they still do it. So why are Republicans covering for Trump when he does something like this, saying these people are a joke, they're not indicative of America, and then he has this video?
Well, I want to start by saying I totally support the protests. I think that this is, a very important part of what it means to be an American is to raise up your voice in any form that you wish. We have these First Amendment rights, and they are precious and dear. I also think that this was not indicative or representative even of the mainstream Democratic Party. These protests were overwhelmingly white. They were overwhelmingly elderly people, older people. Now, again, white boomers have the right to have a mass therapy session about the fact that Donald Trump won. But to call it a no kings protest, to act like he is a king, is so utterly preposterous. This is a man who won the popular vote. He won every swing state. He is a person who is enacting the exact agenda he promised he was going to enact while he was campaigning. And so what they're actually protesting is the absolute perfection of American democracy, where a person campaigned on an agenda, won the popular vote, and is now enacting that agenda. So it was actually a protest of democracy, all of which is to say the only way to greet such a preposterous proposition, calling this a no kings rally when it's actually an anti-democracy rally, is to crap on it. Is to basically make fun of it. And I think that has been the Trump administration's approach. They didn't try to stop it, God forbid, because he's not a king. They allowed them to have their say. They allowed them to go out there, and then they made fun of them.
How do you
to
respond to her argument?
Yeah, first off, it was the largest protest, I believe, in history, right? We never have protests that are the entire population of America. So it was the largest protest. And there's a reason why people are protesting, which is that Trump has not delivered on the stuff he campaigned on. Trump campaigned on lowering the cost of living, on bringing manufacturing back to America, on rebuilding people's means of making a living. And he has failed on those fronts. The only thing that he has done is he has weaponized the U.S. government to go after his political opponents. And that's what people are upset about. That's why it is bringing mainstream people out. I was out in San Francisco, And we marched a few miles. It wasn't old people doing that march. It was people from all walks of life, all races, all ages.
Now, the right-wing talking points have completely flipped. Commentators like Batya Ungar-Sargon are suddenly claiming that the No Kings rally was nothing more than a gathering of elderly folks having a casual therapy session. It's ironic, considering that just a week ago, before the event even took place, these same voices, Mike Johnson, Scott Jennings, and others, were warning that the protest would be violent and chaotic, calling the participants extremists and radicals. Now, after seeing that it was peaceful, they're mocking the protesters as harmless boomers. The No Kings slogan, of course, isn't meant to be taken literally. It's symbolic, a statement against authoritarianism. You'd think MAGA supporters who love slogans like Make America Great Again and Drill, Baby Drill would understand the power of a catchy phrase. Nobody actually believes Trump is a literal king, but No Authoritarians rally just doesn't have the same ring to it. Still, Trump's behavior clearly shows authoritarian tendencies, even if his defenders, Batya Ungar-Sargon, Pete Seat, Scott Jennings, Ben Ferguson, and others who appear on Abby Phillipps' show refuse to acknowledge it. Under his leadership, we've seen questionable actions, legal overreach, and attacks on civil rights. They've even celebrated purging federal employees and sending troops into cities. So, no, he's not a monarch, but the authoritarian label definitely fits. I really wish Scott Jennings had been part of this episode because last week he was loudly defending those false claims about violence and foreign funding. Maybe Abby Phillip will bring him back soon. Still, it's laughable when you think about how seriously MAGA figures like Mike Johnson treated this rally, acting as if Hamas was somehow bankrolling an American protest. An idea that's completely absurd. Yet MAGA pundits like Pete Seat keep pushing this tired communist narrative, insisting that anyone who disagrees with Trump must secretly hate America. Then they try to dismiss the protest's size, even though some reports estimate that over 7 million people participated, making it one of the largest demonstrations in U.S. history, possibly only surpassed by the first Earth Day in 1970. But instead of acknowledging that millions of citizens are unhappy with the current direction of the country, they minimize it, saying things like, "It wasn't everyone." They simply can't accept that so many people oppose their so-called God King. Anyway, I'd like to hear what you think. Do you side with the MAGA pundits from Abby Phillipps' show, or do you believe this was a meaningful, peaceful moment that proved their claims false? Share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Take care.